Welcome back to another episode of Trust in the Force. I'm your host, Vactor. I'm here with the guy, I would probably say he has the most force in all of podcasting. Mr. Super Tim, how are you doing today, sir?
Fantastic, fantastic. I clearly have a lot to learn about pirates.
Whoa, that's true. Because today's episode is episode 5 of Skeleton Crew. You have a lot to learn about pirates. We're going to be discussing that in detail on today's show. So don't forget, we're always here. We love hearing from you, the viewers. We love to hear what your take is, but we're going to give you ours and let us know in the comments down below what you think. All right, Tim, let's jump right into this episode. This might be my favorite episode of this series so far. What did you think?
I really love this one, and but and it came out on Christmas Eve. I was thinking, I don't know if I'm gonna have time to watch Skeleton Crew with everything that I had to do on Christmas Eve. But as the day was winding down, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna turn on some Skeleton Crew, and boy, was I not disappointed. This was a
Yes,
great Christmas gift from Star Wars. It's just so many great callbacks to things, and so many questions getting answered. We get another start your Skeleton Crew drinking game. Another another alias for Jod, and there were several in this episode. There was like I think
yes.
two or three.
I wrote
Um,
down 3 total.
yeah, it almost became funny. It almost
Yes.
became funny because when I don't remember what the alias that the Scottish pirate, because the pirate that Jod talks to is Kelly MacDonald, who's in
Yes.
Brave.
I
Um,
think that one is Dash Zenton. Does that
Dash
sound right?
Zenton.
Okay, yes.
And when that happened, I was like, another alias. And then Wim says, another name? I'm like, wow. And then it just
Yes.
because he had his professor one. And what was the other one?
Professor Umium Gorlax of Scipio or Scipio,
Yeah,
and
Scipio.
then Jodwick Zank was the
Yeah.
third one. So I also am loving every time there's a new alias, there's a new name. It just leads to the overall kind of vibe of this show to me is summed up perfectly in I was actually listening to a podcast and they were talking about Indiana Jones, and Harrison Ford had described just the Indiana Jones movies in general. He said they're always a mixture of mystery, adventure, and heart. And I said, that's Skeleton Crew. That is
Yeah.
exactly what Skeleton Crew is. And then also there's comedy. Like you throw on top of that comedy. And I was laughing throughout this episode. And it just overall just makes me feel this is fun. I'm having fun in the Star Wars universe. So
Yeah, and I've said this before, and it reminds me a lot of the feelings I felt when I saw The Force Awakens for the first time.
yeah.
In the first two, three, four, 5 times I saw it. Uh,
Yes.
and it just like that fun feeling, like and the characters are having fun.
Yes.
Because like one thing I loved about Force Awakens, and I saw this in several reviews, where it felt like the characters were having a good time. Like the scene in Force Awakens when Finn and Poe are like talking like I'm a pilot, you're a pilot. We're getting out of here. We're hijacking a fighter. Yeah, yeah. When they're shooting the TIE fighters, they're like that was another one. And this just feels a lot more like that.
Yes.
And they're having a good time, but we still have these deep character moments where with Wim and Jod at the beginning of the episode, where Wim is like, he says like, I wanted adventure, I wanted excitement. That sounds like somebody. And said like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. This isn't what I imagined. And Jod and him have that heart to heart, which giving the events of the episode, we wonder, like, there probably was an ulterior motive there, but
Yeah. And we talked about this on previous episodes. The the Jod turn in this one at the very end, which also again another great cliffhanger ending. These endings have been fantastic. The exact point in which they end, I'm always like, oh, that was great. That was a perfect, like, as it's coming up, I'm like, this would be a great time to end it right here. And I'm not looking at the timeline to see how much is left in the episode, but
It's a
the
nice zinger. It's a
turn,
nice zinger.
yes, that turn is perfect because we already knew that there were so many episodes left in this season, and we said, "All right, Jod has been with us. He's been with us. We need some type of turn to get back up the mountain. Like we need that dip before we come back up again to the peak." So
Yeah.
yeah, this is all falling in line. Jod, yeah, we know he's gonna be a bad guy, but at the end, he's gonna be redeemed. His heart is gonna show
Right.
through.
He's
I
definitely
can't
going through
see.
that Han Solo, like we talked about, like the
Yes,
Han Solo
yes,
kind of like, oh yeah, I'm only in it for the money. I'm like I've got my reward and I'm leaving, and then but he has developed a bond with these kids, and not and Wim in particular, he's developed a bond with, and we
yes,
saw that at the beginning of the episode and several times in the episode,
yeah.
and I think he's gonna come around. I mean,
Well, even when he's holding her at knife point, and if he was ruthless, he would have just killed her. Like you
sure,
saw
sure,
that he was like, say it. Like he wants, I mean, he doesn't want to do the wrong thing. He doesn't want to hurt them. But right now, in his mind, the treasure comes first and then the kids, right? I think by the end of we're gonna see him sacrifice the treasure at some point. Like that's gonna be the ultimate redeemer for him is he's gonna put the kids ahead of the treasure. So this is all like you and I have consumed a lot of fiction in our time, right? Like we know
sure,
the beats, we know what's coming,
yeah.
but there's a reason why that formula is tried and true. There's a reason why that works, and this is doing everything right. Everything that Skeleton Crew, like the path they're laying down, has just been great. And I did want to say the comedy. I wrote down some notes about the places where I laughed. The one where and Screen Crush Screen Crush pointed this out in their video too. The joke where they're flying and Smee is saying the different names of it's been known by many names. The Demon's Rest, Battle World, Lanupa. That pause and that beat was perfect. I was like, this is great joke writing. Like this is great comedy.
Right.
The kids
And,
dressed
and the
as
name Battle
adults.
World caused me to giggle because of the Marvel implications.
I did
Um,
think about that too. Also, the kids dressed as adults. The language. Oh, they don't speak basic. So let me translate for you. He just made up some gibberish, and it says that too in the captions. It's like speaking
I know it speaks
gibberish.
gibberish. Yeah, that was funny. That was really
So
funny.
and it was there was a little bit of callback too because they kept on using it later in the episode. So yeah, man, dang the every time a new episode of the Skeleton Crew comes out, I'm always giddy. I'm always excited for what is going to come next. Where is this journey going to take me? And this one, it had very heavy Last Jedi vibes as far as like the treasure, the wealthy people
Hmm.
in the galaxy, like that planet of the pleasure barge, and we
Yeah,
saw a
the
lot of the same
Canto Bite
aliens.
in
Yeah, Canto Bite.
Last Jedi. Yeah.
So I really I like that callback as well because they're acknowledging, hey, this also exists in the galaxy at this time, and we're not gonna forget about Last Jedi. We're not gonna as much as a lot of people want to forget.
Well,
You and
yeah, and
I,
they've been doing like in this show in particular, acknowledging all the all the like even like the Star Wars Holiday Special, acknowledging the
yes,
blemishes
that's
in
right.
Star Wars.
Yeah,
They've acknowledged the
yes,
Star Wars Holiday Special several times this
yes.
season, and like if they're gonna acknowledge the first Star Wars blunder, they're gonna acknowledge the most recent Star Wars blunder with the Last Jedi. Not that I didn't enjoy the Last Jedi; it's not a perfect film for me, but I saw it 3 or 4 times in the theater. So what does that tell you?
Yes,
Um,
there's great stuff to be had in all Star Wars. Even my least favorite film in the entire franchise is Rise of Skywalker. There's still things in there that I love. There's still things that give me joy to be in this universe, to spend time in this galaxy.
and Rise of Skywalker had something that I thought was missing throughout the entire sequel trilogy, and that was Rey, Poe, and Finn interacting together, and they didn't really
Yes.
get together until the end of the Last Jedi, and the trilogy is almost over at that point.
Yeah.
Um, but this is not about Rise of Skywalker. This is about Skeleton Crew. But um, uh, but Skeleton Crew, another thing that was like Last Jedi was Jod was very much like DJ
Oh
in
yeah.
that film.
Yeah.
He
Mm-hmm.
very much Screen Crush review brought this up, and I thought it was very interesting that his speech about your focus determines your reality, which straight from the prequels. We're pulling from all the Star Wars blunders that people view as the prequels, holiday special, Last
Yeah.
Jedi, and pulling from that, and like Jod is such an interesting character to me in that because he is obviously he's a pirate, he's a scoundrel, and we don't have enough scoundrels in our lives, and but he also can seemingly use the force, and I hope, because you keep talking about episode 7 being the
Yes.
Jod episode, and I want to know how does he do it? Is he using the force? Does he have only kind of a basic knowledge of how to use the force? Because the
Yeah.
only thing we've seen him force wise do as of yet, and it's happened twice now, it happened at the end of the second episode, happened in this episode, is his force levitation,
Right.
um where he can bring objects to him. Is he using magnets like I can
Kumail
never
and
say his
Johnny's.
name, Star Wars Kingo.
Yeah.
um um and is he doing what he was doing, or is
Right.
he actually doing it with a basic force knowledge?
Yeah.
Is it a basic force ability, like Ram Jamaram in the High Republic, where his force specialty was machines, and learning
Mm.
how those machines worked, and does he have a basic knowledge on how to shift metals? Is he the Star Wars version of Magneto? We don't know.
I'm
But
going as we get further and further in, I'm starting to kind of settle in on he has a basic knowledge. Like he was a Padawan at some point. He
right,
started to learn and then he got cut off. So he
like
only
Caleb
has
Doom.
that. Yeah, he only has
Yeah.
that very beginner knowledge. And I think there was a little hint when when he had to turn off Smee in the last episode at the end. He just ran up there and touched it. If he
Right.
was more force capable, he could have just easily done it from across the room.
Yeah.
So
He could have force pushed
that's
Smee
true. He could
across
have
the
pushed
room.
him. He could have punched the button. Like there's more things that they could have done, and I don't think that was just like a Deus Ex Machina. I think that was like there was a specific reason for that.
Hmm.
And I also loved how this episode started, and it gave us an explanation for why Smee was back as a good guy. It wasn't just, oh, he's bad at the end and then all of a sudden he's good again. They were like, no, we rerouted his there was literally one line. I didn't write it down, but there was literally one line that KB says where she's like, I rerouted his memory to go past his interface or something. And that was like, okay, that line
Well,
explains.
and Smee had a line right after that where he said that was the captain's programming, that wasn't mine.
I like
And
that they didn't skip over that. It's like, hey,
yeah,
give us
yeah,
a
because
reason.
that was a huge thing at the end of the episode. I think
Right.
if they had skipped over it, if this was the Acolyte, that would have happened.
I was gonna say that. That's 100%. Like that was the biggest flaw to me of the Acolyte was the pacing and the way that the story was told. They would skip over things. It would cut abruptly at the end of episodes. Everything was kind of all over the place, and it was like, man, if they just gave it a little bit more time, just give it one more sentence, just throw just one more line in there, it would feel more complete.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah, and
really like that they did that.
I'm glad that they did that too. And we had it's just the pacing of this episode was so great, and it starts off. It doesn't even start off where it left off. It starts off on at Atten, with the parents, and I thought it was
Yes, yes.
interesting to see almost the parents kind of doing kind of the same thing that the kids are doing, trying to figure out the truth about Atten and stuff. So I thought it was a really cool thing.
Yeah, and the parents are much more sympathetic now because when they first started out, we kind of saw it through the kids' eyes, and they were just
Yeah,
the grown-ups, the authority,
yeah,
and
they're so mean.
yes, this one it's like no, they care about their kids. They want to
Yeah,
do anything they can to get them back. And then I think we're going to start to slowly unravel what is the mystery of Atten as far as the parents' side, and they're going to see like what is this, we're going to see the corruption or we're going to see what was going on with the droids and everything. So
right.
this mystery is just unraveling
Yeah,
and
and
it's
speaking of
been great.
the droids seem to be more in charge Like, and
Hmm.
we've seen bits and pieces of this unravel slowly as the series has progressed, is the droids seem to be more in charge. And luckily that, that Fern was on Wim's dad's, not Fern, but Fern's mom was on Wim's dad's side
Right.
in this, because Wim's dad was awful. His poker face was like, if a droid can read through your poker face, it's bad.
That was also a great, I mean, that was the start of the episode, like you said, and I was just laughing from the get-go when they did that classic joke of like, all right, what's behind your back, and you put it and you switch it over to the other hand. And
Like, here's this hand.
yeah,
Now show me your other hand. Here it is.
yeah, so
And the droid's just fed up, like, show me both hands at the same time.
it's just good writing, I think,
Yeah.
from a standpoint of, like we mentioned, mystery, adventure, comedy, and then heart. All of these things are coming together, and the writing on this show, I think, has been solid. It's been top notch. That they're able to structure all these things together. I wanted to talk about what had to be your favorite part of this episode. Once they got to the treasure in the that room, and we saw that gold lightsaber, I immediately said, "Tim, Tim, there's a High Republic."
I know,
Um,
I know. I noticed it. I noticed the High Republic lightsaber. That was really cool, and the white and the gold, because that's what a lot of that era of Star Wars, those lightsabers. Yeah, that was really cool. That was
and
really
even
cool.
at Galaxy's Edge now, they sell one that has like gold accents. Like that wasn't
Hmm.
available when you and I built our lightsabers. Now they're adding High Republic stuff into
Yeah,
everything.
they're adding, like, they came out with a High Republic era lightsaber not that long ago, and I was like, if it was there when I was there, I would have bought that instead of. I mean, I'm glad I built my own.
My money.
My
Yes.
money.
Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, that was really cool, and the cool beat with the lightsaber at the end was perfect.
I laughed so
I
hard
laughed so
because
hard.
you knew it wasn't going to be his hero moment. He wasn't going to turn into Luke Skywalker all of a sudden. He has no experience with a
I
lightsaber.
thought for a second that it would
Oh,
happen.
well, that's good then. Like the way that they set that up, the editing and pacing was perfect
Uh-huh.
because it made you skeptical and is he gonna do it? Like it's almost like logically he has no training, he has no force ability, but then you're like, oh, maybe just the way that they edit it, the way the timing, the shots between back and forth.
Yeah,
But then
and
when
then and then he like, oh, it's backwards. I'm like, that's great.
I
Like, as
was,
this happening, I'm like, that's perfect. That's
yeah,
perfect, because I'm thinking they're setting you up for the da 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 da
yeah,
da
and
that we've
also
seen.
playing upon your knowledge of Star Wars. Like you and I have seen that happen before in Star Wars,
Hmm.
so we are anticipating it. And then when that happens, it works both ways. Whether this is your first Star Wars, that would be funny to you, and that would be that would be a funny setup to you. But then if you have a long history of Star Wars and it's building on that anticipation, oh, I know it's going to happen next. Oh, it subverted my expectations.
Right. I wanted to talk about real quick the direction on this one.
Mm.
This was directed by Jake Schreier, who is directing Thunderbolts Star,
Ooh.
or Thunderbolts asterisk, this summer for Marvel, and how that movie's been kind of advertised is kind of like Dirty Dozen for Marvel. And
Oh, right.
I feel
Mhm.
like the action and the character interactions in this episode really kind of like, it was really great. Like, it was really well paced, and it got me really excited for Thunderbolts asterisk. Uh, and so yeah, like, the direction was really solid. Like, I feel like it, like when it's action, it really follows the action. Like when Jod and the wise elders, as they are called, by the guard,
Yes, that was
like
great.
when he calls him the wise elder, Jod just looks at him like, really, seriously, that's what you're doing. But yeah, but when they're found out, that was perfect. The tension between the like the pirates, the fact that the bounty hunter is calling the pirates, and we got, like, kind of gray characters with, like, Jod and the kids and the parents, and I just think, like, his direction really sold me on that. Seeing trailers for Thunderbolts asterisk has gotten me really excited. And but seeing it in action, like in a long form story like this, really got me excited for what that movie ends up being.
Yeah, I can't wait for that as well. Man, he did a fantastic job. And I think, like I said, this episode encapsulated this whole show for me. The adventure aspect of the kids and the parents, the both of the two storylines that we're seeing, the mystery aspect of what's going on with at Atten and the treasure, the comedy that's happening all throughout, and then the heart of the kids being innocent children, and that moment at the end when Fern was like, "You're an adult. You're a grown up. You're not supposed to do this. That's not fair." It harkens back to that. I think we talked about in the last episode of the children. Oh, I don't want to go home now. I don't want to play anymore. This is not the adventure I thought it was going to be. Wim kind of had that sentiment. So that really tugs at your heartstrings, makes you feel for the children like, oh, I forgot these are kids. They're in over their heads, but I want them to win. I want them to succeed. So, man, I'm really loving this show so
Yeah,
far.
it's so good because like yeah, that line stood out to me too. Is like you're a grown up, you're not supposed to do this. Like you're supposed to be like you're supposed to be the example for us. We're supposed to make the mistakes, not you. And that's just such a child mentality. And to see that kind like I've been loving these this and like kids have always been kind of a weird thing in Star Wars. It's either been too kiddie or it's been so kiddie that it's unbelievable. And I
Mm,
think the way these kids have been portrayed, and I think that has a lot to do with John Watts's kind of the way he is with kids and how he has, you know, you know, kind of directed kids in seeing how they are, between Cop Car and the Spider-Man films. And yeah, it's really brings a realism to Star Wars because we see kids like Luke Skywalker and Anakin, and they just seem written kids. But
right.
it's such a nice breath of fresh air with this show to see kids that like I could see kids like this in my neighborhood,
Mm.
um, and being way over their heads with with bullies and things like that. Although their bullies are pirates of the highest degree, but but they're still way over their heads, and that's been really really refreshing in this show. And like you said, the fun has been there, the heart has been there. Jude Law's performance, everybody's performance has been great. Um, was really surprised to see Julianne Emery from Better Call Saul in this.
Oh yeah.
uh I saw something that's like, oh yeah, Julianne Emery for Better Call Saul. I'm like, what? When did that happen? uh but yeah, I also wanted to, we talked about High Republic the lightsaber, but there was some High Republic insignia and possibly maybe because we've seen the High Republic things with the Great Work, uh which dates back to that era with Chancellor Lena So's projects that she was doing back in the day. But we're also kind of seeing a like kind of references to the Nile, which was a band of mercenary pirates that are central in the High Republic arc. That's been in the books, it's been in the comics, and we saw a little bit of that symbol uh, that the Nile had been known to use in that era. So that was kind of cool. So I'm interested to see how they tie all these different eras together, and like because obviously it seems like that At is kind of stuck in that period of because when they talk about the Old Republic, I think of old Republic or High Republic, kind of in that space. And it seems like they're stuck in that space just because we've seen Wim look at stories of lightsabers and Jedi in their prime, and so I'm really interested to see how all the like tying all these eras together and how this contributes to the overall arc of what has been called the Mandoverse and like where
Mm.
where all these characters end up um in all those things.
Man, I can't wait. This has got me. I'm already hooked, but we're kind of on the back end of this season. So I want to see
Yeah, we
exactly
got like
what's
three
going
episodes
on.
left, right?
Yes.
Oh
Let's
my
see. Next one
gosh!
is 6. So yeah, I'm looking at 7. I'm looking at you because I want to know more about insert name
Don't eat
here.
9, 7. Don't do it.
I can't wait to see it. Mr. Tim, thank you very much for joining me. It's always a pleasure to talk Star Wars to you. And it's always a pleasure to have everyone here in Trust in the Forces Galaxy. Every time you have a thought or a comment, leave it down below. We would love to hear more of your thoughts, and we would be honored if you would join us.
Trust only.